Thanks so much. So the title of this session is meant to be provocative. I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't want to die, not yet. And what I hope to do is leave you with a couple ideas today about how you can be part of digital transformation, why it is an imperative for your business, give you some of the facts behind it, what's happening, what's the surge all about, and hopefully give you some strategies you can take home and sort of start to work with as you become an enabler rather than a blocker for digital transformation in your business. So this is why we have to do that, because the business imperative is now, and IT has to step up to that imperative. Now, I've come from Nintex, so before we get started here, I want to do sort of a little litmus test. First, how many people have SharePoint? All right, right audience, that's good. How many of you own Office 365 SharePoint Online? How many have deployed that? Okay, fair enough. How many people own Nintex, to the best of your knowledge? Okay, good group of you. And how many people have never heard of Nintex? Okay, a few of you. My marketing team has some work to do. So I like to be full disclosure and give you my biases as we enter this little conversation together. So this is Nintex. We build workflow technology. But our bias is coming from a very large customer base. So we have 6,000 customers globally in 90 countries. We have 1,100 partners worldwide that deploy our solution and help our customers get a lot of value out of it. We are the most launched product for Office 365. We are the #1 add-on for SharePoint of all application software in the world. And we are Microsoft's partner of the year. And the reason I want to say that is that our biases, some of the stuff I'm going to tell you about, comes from that point of view. We've got a lot of customers using us on SharePoint to help their businesses transform. So we're not making it up. We actually go back to our customers and ask them about this. So this is why digital transformation means something now more than ever. So Gartner's done a lot of work on this topic. And as you can see, the patterns are really interesting. The pressure to perform faster in IT has never been greater. And that's because business users are starting to recognize they have to move faster. And they're requesting a new form of technology to get them there. New characteristics. They want to be able to stand stuff up quickly. They don't care about monolithic systems anymore. And in fact, the age of monolithic systems is maybe behind us. The new types of technologies have to be agile, they have to be fast, they got to be loosely coupled, because business has to move faster. So in this era, why? Because digital leaders, those companies who have transformed, are more successful. They grow faster and they're more profitable. So business leaders are recognizing this. They're looking at the profit sheets, they're looking at stock results, and they recognize that those companies that are innovating digitally are doing better. So the pressure is on. They're taking that pressure back to the business and saying, how are you going to move our business faster? So leaders in digital transformation, and there's a bunch of them out there, if you peel it all back and kind of look at what are they doing smart, they have 3 pillars that they're doing. The first is they have a digital strategy. So don't just make it up. They actually have a strategy that says, how are we going to transform our business and digitize as much as we can? What's interesting is 59% of all companies who want to be digital leaders don't have a strategy today. The second thing they look at is, what are their capabilities? So what are the technologies that they have, and what are they good at in terms of digital transformation? And they're pretty good about outsourcing everything else. And the last thing that they do is they have a workforce strategy. And this is what's really interesting, and I hope is a big point on today's presentation, is digital leaders think about their workforce not just as customers that they have to help, but as agents of change that help them digitize faster. And I'll show you how some companies have done that. So digital leaders have these kind of attributes, by the way. So you should ask yourself, is this my kind of company today? Or do I want to be this kind of company? They're more agile. They think about growth. They often form little SWAT teams that are there to help unstick problems. They think about the customer experience, both internal and external, and they're passionate about that. How do we make the experience better for users? And fundamentally, I think one of the things that's most important, they have CEO-level support, hence the digital strategy. So digital leaders have those attributes. They have a strategy. They perform better. And they perform better because digitization or transformation into digital work gives these types of benefits. It dramatically improves productivity of the workforce. And when they unleash productivity, because digitization of work basically is about taking everyday human-based tasks and automating them, it lets the workforce start to focus on innovation, the stuff that actually drives more products, more effectiveness, more efficiency. It helps them unleash that creativity and give it back to the business. They're certainly more cost-effective because when you automate, you drive costs out of things. They're typically a lot more agile, and they engage their employees a lot better. So they got a lot of other benefits. So when you see all these benefits, business leaders are now seeing, oh, wow, gosh, digital leaders are a lot more effective. They have all these great attributes. We want to be like that. I need to be like that. So now they're turning back, and they're saying, I've got to get there faster. And their expectations have changed. And a lot of that, we think, is because of the cloud. And it's not that the cloud is the be-all and end-all. It's not that the cloud is going to answer all the questions that digital leaders have. What it is it's a catalyst. It's saying there's a new way to think about IT and a new way to think about the technology that's going to get me there. The democratization of IT is having this carry-on effect or carry-over effect. The new type of leader who's making these decisions, they're more informed, they're more connected, they're more empowered. They actually go out there and research solutions themselves, and they try to solve solutions themselves. So the point I want to make is the cloud isn't an answer, it's a catalyst, and its capabilities have taught business leaders there's a new type of thing they can do. There's a new expectation in terms of speed and deployment of technology to solve their business problem. And the budgets are telling us that's true, because budgets are shifting. They're shifting away from IT into line of business for technology. And that's because the business leader, the strategist, the CEO has said, I need to move faster. I'm going to empower my line of business people to solve the digital automation challenges facing their area so that we can get those benefits, so we can be productive, we can be agile, we can be more profitable. That's what's happening. And the cloud basically has made that possible because it's upended the conversation. The cloud gives folks these types of advantages. And a smart business leader knows that. They know they can deploy faster, they can be more agile, they can spin up and spin down, they can pay as they go. It's all about that agility. It's all about not having to over-invest in a process automation. It's about being able to adjust. They also they don't have to pay for it all up front. So all these sort of capabilities of cloud are in the minds of business leaders as they're thinking about digital transformation. Sometimes they're not thinking about talking to IT, but they should. It's a mistake not to. We'll talk more about why. This cloud momentum, by the way, it's not going away. So these are the facts. You've probably seen them 100,000 times, but money is being spent massively in the cloud as these folks get the budget and they start to realize, wow, I can do this myself and start to solve these problems. So there's a common theme running through all of this sort of digital workplace momentum. It's not just cloud, it's not just productivity. It's about what they're trying to accomplish. And cloud and the systems behind it are really about how they accomplish this. They need to think about the process that the people are working on. They think about the people, and remember, digital leaders are very focused on the user, and the customer, that experience. They need to connect those people with the content that they use in that process. So that's fundamentally what it's all about. People, process, content. And this has gotten a lot harder, partly because of the era of the cloud. So all that power we just gave to line of business users has also made it a little bit more complicated, and here's why. There's more and more content assets now being produced by more and more systems. And they're being put everywhere. So line of business guys don't have to put their content where you want it necessarily. They could put it anywhere, on-premise, in the cloud, endorsed systems, monolithic systems, new systems. And that makes it a challenge because fundamentally we have to be able to connect people to their content to automate processes, to digitize the business. What I thought Forbes did a good job of saying, this is fundamentally what we're trying to do. You've got to create a digital workplace. That's a place where people can go, where they can get their stuff done regardless of where the content sits. Because it's ultimately about helping them get their tasks done faster. It's about making things flow. It's about workflow. And it's got to be oriented around the user. And so these digital leaders have figured that out, right? Because they're hyper-focused on the user, they're hyper-focused on that experience, and they're hyper-focused on how do we make them more effective and efficient. So we did some work. So I mentioned earlier, we got 6,000 customers. And they're out there doing digital transformation every day. That's why they buy our software, frankly. But we wanted to know how they're going about it. How does it really work in reality? What's going on in their business? What are they choosing to automate? And what was stunning to us is of those 6,000 customers, we found some very specific trends. They tend to start with simple, everyday processes. They don't start with the super complex, thousands of step processes that maybe drive a big chunk of the revenue of the business. They start with the everyday stuff. And we tried to figure out why. So we asked them. Good way to figure it out. Go back and ask them. They said this. First, they're more likely to be successful, which is interesting. Hadn't thought of it that way before, but it makes sense. Simpler processes, more likely to be successful when you automate them because they're a lot less complex. But here's the thing we didn't anticipate and I thought was really cool. And it gets back to what I started the whole presentation about. Point number 3 is it teaches the users to think about productivity. It teaches the employees, the workforce, to imagine how automation can impact their work. I thought that was really, really interesting. And I'll show you how that actually gets into the real world here with a case example. We also asked them, okay, well, what's important when you're thinking about productivity in terms of the technologies that you're relying on? So they rely on SharePoint, they rely on us, there's other products that they're gonna choose and pick as part of their sort of bag of tricks. And this is what they said over and over again, whatever we choose, it's gotta be agile because in this world, we're trying to do stuff quickly. We gotta make changes quickly and processes and workplace productivity never stay the same. So part of being agile means that they're gonna have to reiterate, go back and change stuff in an agile fashion because that's how the business is operating. They also said that fundamentally they needed products that they could buy as they use it and not have to overinvest, so pay as you go. The technology had to have hybrid capability because of that content issue, meaning there wasn't a single customer who pretty much said 100% I'm in the cloud. They've got technology, they've got content, they've got processes that are on-prem, in the cloud, both, and they needed vendors and technology that recognize that. And they had to be global. They had to be able to connect to these heterogeneous environments because content's everywhere. The processes touch content that lives everywhere. There's no one stack that solves all that. But I thought the most interesting thing is mobility. And mobility is always talked about as a trend. Here what they're talking about is their workers are using mobile devices more and more, and they want to unleash the productivity of the worker where they are. So when they're on a mobile device, how do we help them get work done? So they're looking for technologies that are mobile native. They don't want to have to go out and custom build stuff. Anything they do should be mobily native. So those are the things that they told us. Well, as we started to dig deeper, we noticed that this is fundamentally what they were saying. There's an opportunity to reinvent the way that people actually work. And this is the best example that we saw out of it. So most people probably recognize this brand. I hope some of you drive this brand. That would make me happy, because they're a good customer of mine. They were facing the same problem that we talked about earlier on, which is they recognized many years ago that their competitors were outperforming them, profit-wise. So they set about a strategy to digitize the business. And part of that strategy is they selected tools to create a digital workplace. They had SharePoint. They wanted to build on SharePoint, so they partnered with us and some of our partners to build a digital workplace. But what was really interesting is they recognized that their IT department didn't have the capacity to do all the digitization that they wanted, to take all the different workflows and different processes and turn them into automated steps. So they needed a way to get around that. Looking at the 3 pillars, they knew that the workforce was part of that, so they decided, we're going to make our employees part of solving the problem. So they decided to build a little training course, just a little 2-day course, and it's called a driver's license. It's actually a Nintex driver's license. And what they do, in over 2 days, they teach people how to think about automation of everyday processes. And part of that is to think about the benefits of them, and part of that is to think like a process person. How do you take steps out? How do you make things more efficient? They've got 1,000 people now trained at Daimler who every day think about how they can Nintex stuff. Very clever. IT is a hero because they didn't try to do it all. They became an enabler for that. They help select the tools, they implement the tools, and they help the line of business people get to their vision faster. They handle the heavy lifting, by the way. So IT is there if they get stuck. IT is there if they need to integrate with other systems and they need to deal with some of those complexities of security and things like that. But Daimler has people going out and automating their own processes. Business analysts, line of business owners. They're not coders. They're not developers. Which is part of that whole attribute we were talking about earlier, which is people want systems that are self-configurable, self-deployable. I can do some of it myself, yet also allow IT to step in and make it even more powerful. And this is what they found, that the opportunities were everywhere in the business. They literally have thousands and thousands and thousands of discrete processes that have been automated. I wish they were paying us more money for that, but this is actually what they did. And I thought it was a clever way of getting there by turning the power to the people and giving them what they wanted. So we think that there's an incredible opportunity to transform your business, and you have to transform your business. We would also encourage you to think of, it's not just about internal transformation, sometimes it's external transformation. Here's a couple examples of that. Here's a company, they're an airline. They fly out of Australia quite a bit. Their challenge was the way that pilots did all their pre-flight checks and even how they certified new pilots, so test flights, was literally a stack of papers on a big binder that they carry into the plane. There was nothing automated about that. There's nothing digital about that. It's old school. End of the flight, they carry it all back, gets shipped off to home office. Eventually, somebody keys it into a system. Maybe they scan it. Weeks and weeks later, you actually have the results of that. Very inefficient, very ineffective. So they rethought that. And it was the pilots who rethought it. They just said, tell us what you would do if you could do it differently. And the first thing out of their mouth was, I'd like to open an iPad. I'd like to do all my stuff there. I'd like to have all the tolerances automatically tell me if I'm out of tolerance. I'd like FCC compliance to be automated. I don't want to have to fill out anything. I want to digitally sign this and be done. So they reimagined it at the user level. And they actually let the, almost out of power. So they actually transformed the whole thing so it's now completely electronic. It's all automated. It's all on iPad. They thought about a new way of doing one of their processes. Here's a different example, opposite end of the aircraft world. This company decided to think about transformation from the very inception of its business. They are building a new jet. They want to be the Uber of small jets. And to do that, they had to build a specific aircraft for their business. But what they decided to do is, instead of doing it the way they are all used to, manufacturing of a jet, they decided to build the whole thing as a digital process from the beginning. They use SharePoint as their extranet. They deploy automation on top of that using Nintex that takes every piece of the process from design through manufacturing, and every piece of it is automated. It's all electronic. From the documents and materials, all the way through the change requests, all the way through FAA compliance. Now, they had the benefit of being a new business, but they thought about transformation from the get-go. How do we remove steps? How do we become more efficient and effective? So what's cool about all this, if you believe this storyline, which I hope you do, is you're going to save a lot of money and you're going to be more successful. So these are real benefits that we've taken out of our customer sample. So again, 6,000 customers, digital transformation on SharePoint, okay? They're doing it every day. Typically, they're seeing 176% ROI on their investments in that transformation stack. They're typically getting about 10 months of payback. In other words, it pays back in about 10 months what that investment is. Typically, they're seeing about 15% productivity gains as a business, and they dramatically reduce their custom coding. So part of digital transformation has to be, you need a stack that allows your end users to deploy quickly and easily. It's got to be agile. It's got to be somewhat self-serve. And then it has to be capable enough, when you need it, that IT can come in and do the heavy lifting and the hard part. And those are the types of benefits that are real, that are happening in the customer base today. So I'm going to give you a shameless plug for Nintex now. So that was all industry stuff. But this is what we do. This is our point of view on it. And there's other ways you can do this, obviously. You can custom code workflows. You can buy other products. You can use SharePoint stuff out of the box. The reason that we're so successful is because we enable this to happen, and we enable it to happen faster. So the Nintex productivity stack sits right on top of SharePoint, online, Office 365, or on-prem. Doesn't matter, we support both. And it's basically a designer for workflow that an end user could use, but it's powerful enough for a developer. It's a forms creation capability. That was that pre-flight checklist I showed you. So it's all mobile-enabled forms. So you can capture data and use data in real time where the users are on their devices with connectors that are pre-built into all those myriad of cloud systems. So you can grab content wherever it is, push content wherever it needs to go, or talk to line of business systems. And we have a great document generation and assembly capability because a lot of these processes need documents created at the end of them. So shameless plug for Nintex, that's how we do it. That's how we try to enable digital transformation. So I hope a year or two from now, all of you will be able to say something like this about us, SharePoint, or whoever you choose to partner with us in this space. It's fundamentally about saving you time. It's about saving you money, saving you effort. But ultimately, it's about making you a better organization. Because that's what digital transformation is ultimately about. Unleashing productivity, returning that productivity back to the business. And I encourage you all to be part of that transformation, because you can be. Part of that is about selecting good tools. Part of that is about thinking about how can we engage our workforce to be part of this journey. How can we teach them to be advocates, to be Nintex ninjas, or to be, what was it, workflow heroes, as one of my colleagues in a cape said the other day. We encourage you to do that, and we hope that that's your quote a year or two from now. So that's a little bit about digital transformation. I hope I got a couple of ideas across that maybe help you out this year. And if you want to learn more or talk more about it, come and see us at the booth, grab a drink. I think we're on to that next. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.